From Tyson Fury's ridiculous demands to a deadline that's a little too close for comfort, here's why Oleksandr Usyk's promoter claims Fury's the one holding up their fight. The two heavyweights are set to face each other on the 29th of April. But despite that date, less than 6 weeks away, neither fighter seems to have signed a contract, and no official announcement has been made. Now, if you know anything about boxing, you probably know that this fight is kind of a big deal, as the winner stands to become the first undisputed heavyweight champion since Lennox Lewis held that title more than 20 years ago. Usyk currently holds the IBF, WBA, and WBO heavyweight belts, while Tyson Fury holds the WBC title. Whoever wins is gonna be the real top dog. I mean, there's few titles in sports that hold as much weight and glory as being boxing's undisputed heavyweight champion. And while this is a fight most fans would love to see, the negotiations between Usyk and Fury's camp have been less than smooth, to say the least. I mean, they've been talking about this fight for months, calling each other out back and forth on social media. But even now, with a potential date set for the end of April, fans and promoters are unsure if this highly anticipated bout will actually take place. And Usyk's promoter Alex Krasik blames Tyson Fury for dragging out the process. But first, let's take a little look at our two fighters and understand why some are saying this bout will come to be known as the fight of the century. Tyson Fury, otherwise known as the Gypsy King, is a professional British boxer who currently holds the WBC heavyweight world title. He's one of the largest boxers of all time, literally, standing at 6 feet and 9 inches tall and weighing 278 pounds. Talk about a giant. The guy's huge. In fact, the only heavyweight champion larger than him is the Russian behemoth Nikolai Valuev, who stood 7 feet tall and beat John Ruiz in 2005 to earn the heavyweight title. Tyson won the WBC title after defeating heavy-hitting Deontay Wilder in 2020. But he's also previously been a unified heavyweight champ, holding the WBO, IBF, IBO, and WBA belts, after defeating Vladimir Klitschko in 2015. He's won 24 of his 36 bouts by knockout, and his record is almost perfect since it's only blemished by 1 draw. He's ranked as the world's best active boxer by ESPN, and many consider Fury to be the greatest heavyweight to ever live. Considering all that, it's a pretty big deal no matter who he steps in the ring with. But on April 29th, he's supposed to be facing Oleksandr Usyk, who's definitely a great and dangerous boxer in his own right. Usyk is considered by many to be the greatest Ukrainian boxer of all time, and taking a look at his record, it's easy to see why. The 36-year-old is undefeated, winning 13 of his 20 professional bouts by knockout. He previously fought at cruiserweight, where he was the undisputed champion from 2018 to 2019, making him the first in his weight class to unify all 4 belts. After defeating Anthony Joshua in 2021, he earned the unified heavyweight belts, making him the 3rd boxer in history to unify the cruiserweight titles and become a heavyweight champion. Considering all this, the only glory left for both fighters is to unify all 4 belts in their weight class, becoming the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. But unfortunately for both of them, they stand in each other's way, and neither of them are going to give the other an easy fight. The online back and forth between the two has been pretty scathing. It seems like Tyson Fury has a real potty mouth when it comes to trash-talking his opponents. I won't quote him here, you can find the footage. It all began after Usyk called Fury out after his victory over Anthony Joshua. It seems that even since then he had his eye on the undisputed championship, and he knew, just like everyone else, that the giant Brit was standing in his way. He's a braver man than me. I would have just left the big guy alone. Anyway, since then, the two fighters have been going back and forth like it's nobody's business. I mean, they've literally been calling each other out for months. Usyk has taken to referring to Tyson Fury as Belly.
Belly, where are you?
Perhaps alluding to the Brit's chubby appearance, while Fury has used a flurry of swear words and insults to call out his opponent.
And Usyk, I don't rate him either. He's a pumped up middleweight. And he's had a few fights at heavyweight.
and all of a sudden people think he's some legendary heavyweight champion. Who's he fought? He fought Tim Witherspoon's son.
Notably referring to Usyk as a pumped-up middleweight, and really not showing the guy any respect. While his online presence might make you think that Fury's not scared of his Ukrainian rival, Usyk's promoter Alex Krasik seems to think otherwise. Recently, he's claimed that Fury's camp has been making progressively more ridiculous demands, putting the upcoming bout in jeopardy. And he believes it's all because Fury does not truly want to fight Usyk, and he's trying to find any excuse not to go ahead. Fury's camp apparently rejected the initial 50-50 split that they'd agreed upon. After Usyk's camp countered with a 60-40 split, with 60% going to the winner, Fury upped the ante, claiming Oleksandr doesn't even deserve that. The British fighter then proposed a 70-30 split, claiming that Usyk is only worth 30% of the fight purse. That's a pretty small percentage if you ask me, especially considering that Usyk is, literally half the fight. Usyk's camp accepted. But then some issues surrounding rematch clauses seem to have held up negotiations again. Krasik claims that Fury's camp initially demanded a rematch clause and is now going back on their request. While trying to pin the holdup on Usyk, Krasik chalks up all this back and forth, all these delays and issues with negotiation, to fear on Tyson Fury's part. In an interview with ID Boxing, Alex said, "Normally when a fighter doesn't want to fight, he asks for something impossible, and then it's not happening. That's according to my experience. I've been in boxing for almost 20 years, and that's what I've seen so many times." Despite the ongoing negotiations and the fight date being set for April 29th, it still seems apprehensive that contracts might not get signed and the fight won't go through, saying, "I'm not really confident that this fight is going to happen on April 29th. I'll be surprised if it takes place, but if it takes place, I'll be really happy." Usyk and his camp have been adamant that if the fight does not go down on April 29th, then all agreements they've previously come to would have to be renegotiated. All that time going back and forth, and for nothing. When asked what he thought about the situation, UFC President Dana White voiced most boxing fans' concerns, saying, "That is boxing. That's the way that the sport always seems to play out. The big fights that should happen never happen." Now, despite all the drama surrounding this fight, the trash talk back and forth and the accusations of intentionally sabotaging negotiations, the WBC has recently given the two fighters a deadline by which they need to have signed their contracts. The WBC recently gave Fury and Usyk till the 1st of April to come to an agreement. And considering that the fight is set to take place on the 29th in Wembley Stadium, which I assume involves a bunch of planning, I think the fighters have both been cut enough slack as it is. Let's just hope they can get it together and come to an agreement, so we can finally see these two great boxers face off and prove who deserves to be the true, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. So there you have it, folks. From Tyson Fury's ridiculous demands to a deadline that's a little too close for comfort. That's why Oleksandr Usyk's promoter claims Fury's the one holding up their fight.